Hey, welcome back to Healthcare Kata. This is the final part of a six-part series, kind of detailing the good and the bad and the ugly of my experiments with the Toyota Kata approach in healthcare. And in the previous couple of videos, I was very specifically giving examples of hospital application of the Kata approach. And I want to talk a little bit more strategic this time. There's an example I have from my own experience where I was asked by one of our senior leaders, kind of how does the Kata approach fit into our overall lean transformation, to our overall operational excellence strategy, because we're asking leaders of the organization to develop A3s and utilize that to drive the problem-solving approach, and we're doing Kaizen events and a myriad other tools. And so is the improvement kata, for example, just another tool for a certain type of improvement effort? Are we confusing them by the people out in the field by sending them multiple ways to solve problems, so on and so forth? It was just a really great point that I didn't really know how to answer. And I think that it's hard to articulate until you've really started to do a lot of cycles of coaching and learning and really starting to see that the Kata approach is not another tool or technique to solve a problem, even though it does do that. But the real meaning behind the Kata is that it's a habit or behavior or mindset. It's the routines that we practice to develop habits, behaviors, and mindsets. And so it has a little bit of a different purpose, and I think that needs to be explained. So I'm going to attempt to do that with an analogy. So imagine that we are at the edge of a ravine, and let's say that there is a bunch of cargo on one side of the ravine, and that is the change that needs to be delivered to the organization. It has to be carried across the ravine to the other side. So in healthcare, you can think about that in terms of we need to eradicate, patient harm. We need to be able to adopt new technologies, for example, electronic medical record, or we need to be more collaborative in the care that we provide between physicians and nurses and other caregivers. These are all huge amounts of change that has to be delivered to healthcare. And of course, that cargo is not going to get carried to the other side on its own. We need to have the ability to pick up that cargo and transport it. And that can be done in many different ways. Individual efforts. One individual can pick up a box and carry it across the ravine regardless of whether there's a bridge there or not. And the bigger, the stronger the individual, the bigger the box that they can carry. But you only have a couple of those really, really athletic, strong, big people in an organization. Most people are just like me. They're just, average height and average strength, and, they're going to struggle a little bit with the bigger boxes. So sometimes when a particularly difficult, unwieldy box is needing to be transported, we'll resort to team efforts and think of that as like a Kaizen event or something like that. Whereas an individual effort can be a just do it, a simple Kaizen, or maybe somebody doing a personal A3, that sort of thing. And so we have all these techniques by which the change can be delivered across the ravine. Of course, wow, isn't it great that that bridge is there? Isn't it nice that there's a bridge? If it wasn't there, it's going to be a lot more difficult to deliver that change. So yeah, the individual efforts could probably still occur. It would just take longer. It would be more difficult. Fewer people would be able to participate in climbing down one side of the ravine, crossing the river, and then climbing up. But it could still get done, I guess. The team effort is going to be really difficult. Try to pick up a piano, 5 people, each grabbing a piece of it, going down a ravine and back up. Very difficult. So it's really nice to have that bridge. And if you wanted to take the analogy a little bit further, you would say, well, how do we go about building that bridge? The bridge doesn't just get there on its own. And kind of the way I think about it is that bridge is like having a foundation in your organization of lean thinkers, having a foundation of continuous improvement culture in your organization that makes it easier to deliver change, to be able to improve quality, reduce costs, be more patient-centered, etc. And it makes the individual efforts better, makes the team efforts better, your A3s, your Kaizen events, etc. That's all great. But again, how do we build that bridge? How do we develop that lean culture, that continuous improvement mindset? And I'll argue that that's really what the Kata is all about. Kata is how we build the bridge. And there was a great video that I saw on Mike Rother's YouTube channel. By the way, shout out to Mike. He's been instrumental in providing PowerPoint slides for me to use, videos for me to view. Highly encourage you to check out his website. or his YouTube channel, or both. They're just phenomenal. Anyway, I watched this video where they talked about how bridge building can kind of be seen as a learning exercise, and they had these hikers carrying rope from one side of a ravine to the other, and they pinned the rope up to the edge of the ravine, and they crossed the ravine again to the other side and pinned the rope up to that side, and they just kept going back and forth with rope until they had a nice structure where they could start laying down planks, and they could create a walking path, a suspension bridge. And eventually they were able to build up this really awesome, strong bridge that's capable of delivering heavy loads. But it all started by just carrying a rope across and pinning it up to one side. And that was the learning process. And it looked, from the outside, it may just look like he was delivering a small load of cargo, something on his back, a rope or whatever. Just like the kata can be perceived as another technique to do process improvement, yeah, you can do some process improvement and you can get some great results. However, there's a bigger picture at play here. There's an underlying message, which is we're trying to build a bridge. We're trying to learn. We're trying to establish our lean mindsets. We're trying to establish our culture of continuous improvement. And that's really what the kata is all about. And that's how it makes your team efforts better, your individual efforts better. It helps us deliver that change to the other side. And that analogy really ties into this image that I've been showing at the end of every video, which is that your brain's picking up that barbell and lifting weights and getting stronger, developing muscle memory, good strong habits. That's what the Toyota Kata provides, is the patterns that we can practice over and over again to develop that strength. And if we do that, it's like building that bridge, which enables all the great things that we want to accomplish with the lean approach. And I think it all is triggered by viewing every step as an experiment. That's kind of like the fundamental catalyst that gets the whole ball rolling, I think. And so if you're a coach, you're viewing it as an experiment every step you take. If you're a learner, you're facilitating the improvement effort, every step's an experiment. When you get a whole team starting to think like that, it can be pretty powerful. You start to see your people become better problem solvers, your coaches becoming better at developing problem solvers, and then we personally start getting better at becoming learners in our own everyday lives. And when it comes to my personal life, of course, I couldn't help but showing the picture of my daughter again. I showed this in an earlier video, but I just want to reinforce the point that when you do start to kind of view things as experiments, you start to develop that kata mindset, and I think you do see applications for it in your everyday life, and I think it does make you better as just a lifelong learner. You accept uncertainty a little easier, and you cope with change and difficulties a little bit easier. So I'd encourage everybody, start experimenting, start trying the kata, see what works, see what doesn't. It'll look different for you than it does for me, but you do enough cycles, you develop enough muscle memory, I think you will definitely enjoy the results, both in your business and personal life. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to contact me, leave a comment on this video if you like what you saw, or if you're not, let me know also. So thanks again, best of luck with your experiments.